Have you ever walked away from a conversation and thought, "Why did I say that?" Or felt your heart pounding during a heated discussion, knowing you were about to say something you'd regret? Maybe you've snapped at your spouse after a stressful day at work, only to see the hurt in their eyes. Perhaps you've lost your cool with a difficult customer or colleague, damaging a relationship you valued. Or maybe you found yourself lying awake at night, replaying an argument where your emotions got the better of you, wishing you could have stayed calm and handled it differently. If any of this sounds familiar, you're not alone. In fact, you're part of the majority of people who struggle with emotional control in high-pressure moments. But here's what makes this audiobook different from everything else you've tried: we're not going to tell you to just calm down or think positive thoughts. Those approaches don't work when your emotions are running high. The real problem, your brain's ancient operating system. The truth is, your brain is still running on ancient software. When faced with conflict, criticism, or stress, your mind doesn't distinguish between a saber-toothed tiger and your boss giving you harsh feedback. It triggers the same fight-or-flight response that kept our ancestors alive, but now sabotages our relationships, careers, and peace of mind. This isn't a character flaw, it's biology. Your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, can hijack your thinking brain in milliseconds, leaving you to clean up the emotional mess afterward. But what if I told you that you could rewire this response? What if you could stay calm and composed even when others are losing their minds? What you'll gain from this journey. Over the next few hours, you're going to learn something most people never master: how to remain in control of yourself when everything around you feels chaotic. You'll discover the 5-second technique that can stop an emotional explosion before it happens. Exactly what to say when someone is trying to provoke you. How to handle workplace conflicts without damaging your reputation or relationships. The secret to staying calm during family arguments and personal attacks. Why your current coping strategies aren't working and what to do instead. How to recover quickly when you do lose control, turning mistakes into growth opportunities. Why this approach works. This isn't theory, it's battlefield-tested wisdom. Every technique you'll learn has been proven effective in real-world situations. We'll cover the workplace executive who stopped having panic attacks during board meetings, the parent who learned to discipline their children without yelling, and the couple who saved their marriage by mastering emotional communication. These aren't superhuman people with perfect lives. They're ordinary individuals who learned extraordinary skills. Skills that you're about to master. Your emotional transformation starts now. Imagine walking into your next difficult conversation feeling completely calm and confident. Picture yourself staying composed when someone criticizes your work, tries to embarrass you in public, or pushes every button you have. Envision ending your day feeling proud of how you handled every interaction, rather than replaying moments of regret. This isn't wishful thinking, it's your new reality. But it requires you to do something different than you've done before. Instead of just listening passively, you need to actively engage with what you're learning. When I ask you to pause and practice a technique, actually do it. When I give you a scenario to imagine, really put yourself in that situation. The journey ahead. We'll start by understanding why you react the way you do, the fascinating science behind emotional triggers and how your past experiences shape your present responses. Then we'll build your emotional regulation toolkit, technique by technique, scenario by scenario. You'll learn to master your emotions in 4 key areas. First, your workplace, where stress, deadlines, and difficult personalities can trigger your worst reactions. You'll discover how to handle criticism gracefully, deal with micromanaging bosses, and navigate office politics without losing your composure. Second, your relationships, from romantic partnerships to family dynamics. You'll master the art of staying calm during arguments, communicating your needs without attacking others, and creating emotional safety in your most important connections. Third, your daily interactions, those unexpected moments that can derail your entire day. Road rage, slow service, rude strangers, social media conflicts. You'll learn to glide through these situations with grace. Finally, your crisis moments, when life throws you curveballs and everything feels like it's falling apart. Financial stress, health scares, major disappointments. You'll develop unshakable emotional resilience. Your commitment to change. Here's what I need from you: commitment to practice, not perfection. You're going to make mistakes. You'll have moments where you forget everything you've learned and react emotionally. That's not failure, that's learning. Every person who has mastered emotional control has walked this same path of progress, not perfection. Give yourself permission to be a student. Approach this journey with curiosity rather than judgment. When you notice yourself getting triggered, instead of thinking, "I'm terrible at this," think, "This is interesting, I wonder what I can learn from this reaction." The life you're creating. By the end of this audiobook, you won't just know how to control your emotions, you'll have rewired your automatic responses. You'll find yourself naturally staying calm in situations that used to overwhelm you. People will start commenting on your composure. Your relationships will improve. Your stress levels will decrease. Your confidence will soar. Most importantly, you'll like yourself better. No more walking away from interactions feeling ashamed of how you behaved. No more lying awake replaying conversations you wish had gone differently. No more feeling like your emotions are controlling your life. This is your moment. The next few hours will be an investment in every relationship you'll ever have, every goal you'll ever pursue, and every challenge you'll ever face. Your future self is counting on the decision you make right now to transform how you show up in the world. So find a comfortable position, eliminate distractions, and prepare to master the most important skill you'll ever learn: complete emotional control in any situation. Let's begin. Chapter 1: Why We Lose Control in the Heat of the Moment. Picture this scenario: you're sitting in a team meeting when your colleague publicly criticizes the project you've been working on for months. Within seconds, your heart starts pounding, your face feels hot, and before you know it, you've snapped back with a sharp comment that makes everyone uncomfortable. Later, you think, "Why did I react that way? I'm usually not like that." Or imagine this: you're driving home after a stressful day when someone cuts you off in traffic. Instantly, rage floods your system. You find yourself honking aggressively, maybe even following too closely, your hands gripping the steering wheel so tight your knuckles are white. 20 minutes later, you're wondering what possessed you to act like that. These moments aren't character flaws or signs of weakness. They're the result of an ancient survival system that's still running in your modern brain, and once you understand how it works, you can learn to override it. Meet your brain's ancient security system. To understand why you lose control in heated moments, you need to meet the real culprit: your amygdala. This almond-shaped structure, buried deep in your brain's limbic system, has been keeping humans alive for hundreds of thousands of years. It's your brain's smoke detector, constantly scanning your environment for threats and ready to sound the alarm at the first sign of danger. Here's the fascinating part: your amygdala can't tell the difference between a charging tiger and a critical comment from your boss. To your ancient brain, both register as threats to your survival. The same system that helped your ancestors outrun predators now gets triggered by modern stressors like workplace conflict, social embarrassment, or relationship arguments. When your amygdala detects what it perceives as a threat, it launches what scientists call an amygdala hijack. In milliseconds, faster than conscious thought, it floods your system with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, preparing your body to fight, flee, or freeze. Your rational thinking brain, located in the prefrontal cortex, gets temporarily shut down. The speed of emotional hijacking. Here's what's truly remarkable about this process: your emotional brain processes information about 20 times faster than your thinking brain. While your prefrontal cortex is still trying to figure out what's happening, your amygdala has already decided there's a threat and launched its response. Let's break down exactly what happens in those crucial milliseconds. Step 1: Threat detection, 0 to 20 milliseconds. Your senses pick up something: a raised voice, a critical tone, an aggressive gesture. This information travels to your brain's relay station, the thalamus. Step 2, the split, 20 to 40 milliseconds. Here's where things get interesting. Your thalamus sends the information along two pathways simultaneously. The high road to your prefrontal cortex for careful analysis. The low road directly to your amygdala for instant reaction. Step 3, amygdala takes charge, 40 to 60 milliseconds. If your amygdala perceives danger, it doesn't wait for your thinking brain to weigh in. It immediately triggers the release of stress hormones and hijacks control of your responses. Step 4, physical response, 60 plus milliseconds. Your heart rate spikes, blood flows to your muscles, your breathing changes, and your body prepares for action. Meanwhile, your rational mind is still trying to catch up. Why this system fails us in modern life. This lightning-fast response system was perfect for our ancestors facing immediate physical threats. If a predator was charging, you didn't want to spend time analyzing the situation, you needed to run or fight immediately. The system saved lives. But in today's world, most of our threats aren't physical emergencies, they're psychological and social challenges. Your boss isn't actually going to physically attack you when she gives harsh feedback. The person who cut you off in traffic isn't hunting you. Your spouse disagreeing with you isn't a survival threat. Yet your amygdala responds to these modern stressors with the same intensity it would use for a life-threatening emergency. This mismatch between our ancient wiring and modern reality is why you find yourself having outsized emotional reactions to situations that, logically, don't warrant them. The modern workplace, a perfect storm for emotional hijacking. Let's look at how this plays out in your daily life, starting with the workplace, where emotional hijacking can have serious consequences for your career and relationships. Common workplace triggers that activate your amygdala include public criticism or embarrassment. When your work is criticized in front of others, your brain interprets this as a threat to your social status and survival. Your ancestors who were rejected by their tribe often didn't survive, so your brain treats social rejection as a potential life or death situation. Micromanagement and control. When you feel your autonomy is being threatened, your brain's threat detection system activates. You might find yourself becoming defensive, argumentative, or wanting to escape the situation entirely. Workplace conflicts and confrontations, heated discussions, disagreements with colleagues, or tensions with supervisors all trigger your fight-or-flight response. You might find yourself either becoming aggressive, fight, or shutting down and avoiding the situation, flight. Performance pressure and deadlines. When you're under intense pressure to perform, your brain can interpret this as a threat, leading to anxiety, panic, or emotional outbursts. Real-world examples. When good people react badly. Let me share some real examples of how emotional hijacking shows up in everyday situations. Sarah, the marketing manager. Sarah had been working on a campaign for 3 months. During a client presentation, her colleagues suddenly questioned her research in front of everyone. Within seconds, Sarah felt her face burning and heard herself saying, "Maybe if you'd bothered to read the brief, you'd understand the strategy." The room fell silent. Later, Sarah couldn't believe she'd been so unprofessional, but in that moment, her amygdala had taken control. Mike, the sales director. Mike was known for being calm and collected. But when a junior colleague challenged his decision in a team meeting, something snapped. Mike slammed his hand on the table and raised his voice, shutting down the discussion entirely. He spent the rest of the day feeling embarrassed and confused about his reaction. Jennifer, the HR professional. Jennifer prided herself on her emotional intelligence. But when her boss criticized her handling of a sensitive employee issue, she found herself fighting back tears and struggling to speak coherently. Her usually sharp communication skills abandoned her just when she needed them most. These aren't bad people having bad moments, they're normal people whose ancient brain systems got activated by modern triggers. The physical signs of hijacking. Learning to recognize when you're being hijacked is the first step to regaining control. Your body gives you clear signals that your amygdala has taken over. Physical sensations you might notice: heart pounding or racing, face feeling hot or flushed, hands shaking or trembling, tight chest or difficulty breathing, muscle tension, especially in shoulders and jaw, sweaty palms or sudden temperature changes, tunnel vision or feeling spacey, emotional and mental signs, sudden intense anger, fear, or anxiety, feeling like you need to attack or defend yourself, urge to escape or avoid the situation, mind going blank or unable to think clearly, feeling like you're watching yourself react, overwhelming sense of being threatened or unsafe. The key insight here is that these reactions happen faster than conscious thought. By the time you notice them, your amygdala has already launched its response. But recognizing these signs is still crucial because it's the beginning of taking back control. Why traditional advice doesn't work. Now you understand why well-meaning advice like, just stay calm, or, don't take it personally, is completely useless when you're in the middle of an emotional hijacking. When your amygdala is in control, your rational thinking brain, the part that could evaluate that advice, is offline. It's like telling someone to just think clearly while their house is on fire and they're running for their lives. The survival system is in charge, and it's not interested in calm, rational responses. This is also why you can know exactly how you should handle a situation when you're calm, but then react completely differently when you're actually in that situation. Knowledge isn't enough when your ancient brain takes over. You need specific techniques that work at the physiological level, not just the intellectual level. The two-brain reality. Think of yourself as having two different brains. Your emotional brain, the amygdala and limbic system. Fast, automatic, and powerful. Focused on immediate survival. Can't distinguish between physical and emotional threats. Takes control in high-stress situations. Evolved to keep you alive in dangerous situations. Your rational brain, the prefrontal cortex. Slower, deliberate, and analytical. Focused on long-term consequences and relationships. Can evaluate threats and choose appropriate responses. Gets shut down when the emotional brain takes over. Evolved for complex thinking and social cooperation. Most of the time, these two systems work together beautifully. Your emotional brain alerts you to important information, and your rational brain evaluates it and decides how to respond. The problem occurs when your emotional brain decides there's an emergency and doesn't wait for input from your rational brain. The good news, your brain is changeable. Here's the most important thing you need to understand: while you can't eliminate your amygdala's responses, and you wouldn't want to, since they sometimes save your life, you can learn to work with this system more effectively. Your brain has something called neuroplasticity, which means it can form new neural pathways throughout your life. With the right techniques and consistent practice, you can learn to recognize hijacking earlier in the process. Develop ways to calm your amygdala before it fully takes control. Strengthen the connection between your emotional and rational brains. Build new automatic responses that serve you better in modern situations. The techniques you'll learn in this audiobook work by engaging your prefrontal cortex, your rational brain, even when your amygdala is activated. Instead of trying to suppress your emotional responses, you'll learn to work with your brain's natural systems to stay in control. Understanding your personal triggers. Not everyone gets hijacked by the same things. Your personal triggers are shaped by your life experiences, personality, current stress levels, and even your physical health. Understanding your specific triggers is crucial for preventing unwanted reactions. Common categories of emotional triggers include authority and control issues. Some people get triggered when they feel controlled, micromanaged, or when their autonomy is threatened. Criticism and judgment. Others are particularly sensitive to any form of criticism, feedback, or perceived judgment. Rejection and abandonment. Situations that trigger fears of being excluded, ignored, or rejected can cause intense reactions. Injustice and unfairness. When people perceive unfair treatment, favoritism, or dishonesty, their emotional alarms go off. Disrespect and dignity. Feeling disrespected, dismissed, or treated as incompetent can trigger powerful defensive responses. Your triggers often connect to deeper fears and past experiences. The colleague who gets furious when micromanaged might have grown up with controlling parents. The person who shuts down when criticized might have experienced harsh judgment early in life. Understanding these connections helps explain why certain situations feel so threatening to your brain. The cost of emotional hijacking. Before we dive into solutions, let's be honest about what emotional hijacking costs you. In your career, emotional outbursts can damage your professional reputation, strain relationships with colleagues, and limit advancement opportunities. Even one poorly handled emotional reaction can overshadow years of good work. In your relationships, when you react emotionally to your family and friends, you damage trust and intimacy. The people closest to you begin walking on eggshells, afraid to trigger your reactions. In your self-esteem, every time you react in a way that doesn't align with your values, you lose respect for yourself. You start thinking of yourself as someone who loses control or can't handle stress. In your physical health, chronic activation of your stress response system takes a toll on your body, contributing to everything from headaches and digestive issues to more serious health problems. But here's the empowering truth: now that you understand why you react the way you do, you can learn to respond differently. What's coming next? In the chapters ahead, you'll discover how to identify your specific emotional triggers before they hijack you. The exact techniques that can stop an emotional reaction in its tracks. How to rewire your brain's automatic responses over time. Situation-specific strategies for staying calm in workplace conflicts, relationship arguments, social pressure, and other challenging scenarios. The most important thing to remember as we continue this journey is that emotional hijacking is not a character flaw, it's a normal human experience that can be managed and overcome. You're not broken, and you don't need to become a different person. You just need to learn how to work more effectively with the brain you already have. In our next chapter, we'll dive deep into mapping your personal emotional triggers, the specific situations, words, and behaviors that activate your amygdala. Once you know what sets you off, you can start preparing your responses in advance. Remember, mastery isn't about never getting triggered, it's about catching yourself earlier in the process and having the tools to respond rather than simply react.
Before we dive into Chapter 2, I want to take a moment just to connect with you. If you've had an aha moment so far, if you're finally understanding why you react the way you do, then you're going to love what's coming next. If this audiobook is helping you, please take a second to hit that like button. It's a small action, but it tells YouTube that this content is valuable and helps it reach other people who are ready to master their emotions. And if you want more practical, science-based strategies for improving your life, be sure to subscribe to the EchoLib channel. When you subscribe, you'll be joining a community committed to emotional mastery and personal growth. Your support helps us continue to create content that makes a real difference. Now, let's get back to your transformation. You've just learned why your brain hijacks your emotions. But knowing why you get triggered is only half the battle. The next step is mapping your specific emotional triggers, those situations, words, and behaviors that set you off. Because you can't manage what you don't recognize.
Chapter 2, Mapping Your Emotional Triggers, the Hidden Patterns That Control Your Reactions. You've just learned the why your brain's ancient alarm system can hijack you in a split second. Now, it's time to become a detective of your own emotional world. Because here's the truth, you can't manage what you don't recognize. Every time you feel your face get hot, your heart start pounding, or your mind go blank, it's not random. It's a signal that one of your personal emotional triggers has just been pulled. Understanding the nature of a trigger. Think of an emotional trigger as a button that, when pushed, activates your amygdala's alarm system. These buttons aren't the same for everyone. What makes you furious might not even faze the person next to you. Your triggers are highly personal, shaped by your unique life experiences, past traumas, family dynamics, and even your personality. For example, a critical comment from a boss might feel like a minor annoyance to one person, but to someone who was constantly criticized as a child, it can feel like a direct threat to their self-worth. It's not the comment itself that's the problem, it's the pattern it activates within you. Your first step in gaining emotional control is to build a detailed map of your personal triggers. How to map your emotional landscape, a 3-step process. This isn't just about reading, it's about active practice. You'll need to become an observer of your own mind and body. Here's how you can start. Step 1. Reflect on recent hijacks. Take a moment to recall the last 3 to 5 times you felt an intense emotional reaction you later regretted. This could be an outburst of anger, a sudden wave of anxiety, or an intense feeling of shame. Think about these specific situations. Who were you with? What was said or done? What was the exact moment you felt your body change? What thought went through your mind right before you reacted? For example, maybe your partner said, "You're always late." The thought that flashed through your mind might have been, "They're trying to control me." The trigger isn't the word late. It's the feeling of being controlled. Step 2. Identify your core trigger categories. Once you've reflected on a few key moments, you'll start to see patterns. Most emotional triggers fall into a few common categories. See which of these resonate most with you. Triggers of control. Do you get disproportionately angry when you feel someone is giving you unwanted advice, micromanaging you, or telling you what to do? Triggers of criticism. Does even mild feedback feel like a personal attack? Do you have an intense reaction when someone questions your competence or judgment? Triggers of injustice. Do you feel a surge of anger when you see someone being treated unfairly? Do you get upset when you feel your own contributions are not acknowledged? Triggers of rejection. Are you highly sensitive to being ignored, excluded, or dismissed? Does a lack of a response to your text or email trigger intense anxiety? Triggers of disrespect. Do you have an immediate negative reaction when someone talks down to you, interrupts you, or treats you as if you're incompetent? Identifying your core categories is like finding the roots of your emotional reactivity. Step 3. Journaling for awareness. The best way to become a detective is to keep a log. For the next week, carry a small notebook or use a note-taking app on your phone. Every time you feel that physical shift, the heat in your chest, the tension in your jaw, take a moment to write down 3 things. The trigger, what happened? E.g., boss gave me a new project without asking. The emotion, what did I feel? E.g., frustration and anger. The thought, what thought went through my mind? E.g., they don't trust me to do my own work. Don't judge it. Just observe and record. This simple practice will give you incredible insight into your automatic reactions. The connection between past and present triggers. Your triggers didn't just appear out of thin air. They're often connected to foundational experiences from your past. The need for approval might stem from a childhood where your parents' love felt conditional. A strong aversion to criticism could be rooted in being shamed or ridiculed by a sibling or teacher. Feeling controlled might be a response to growing up in a chaotic environment where you craved structure, or a highly structured one where you craved freedom. Understanding this connection is powerful because it allows you to bring compassion to your own emotional reactions. You're not overreacting, your brain is simply using an old blueprint to navigate a new situation. The goal is not to blame the past but to use this knowledge to create a new blueprint for the future. The 2 key benefits of mapping your triggers. You stop blaming the external world. When you understand your triggers, you stop seeing other people as the sole cause of your pain. Your boss's criticism isn't making you angry, it's activating an existing pattern within you. This realization is incredibly empowering because it puts you in the driver's seat. You can't control what others say, but you can control your response. You gain the power of prediction. by mapping your triggers, you can start to anticipate when a hijack is likely to occur. When you know a specific colleague's behavior or a particular family discussion is a potential minefield, you can prepare yourself with the tools you'll learn in the next chapters. You move from a state of constant reaction to a state of conscious response. Your commitment to action. This chapter is the foundation for everything that follows. Without a clear map of your triggers, all the techniques in the world will be less effective. So, I encourage you to take a few minutes right now to complete the reflection exercise. Think about a recent moment of emotional struggle and identify the trigger. This is the first step in taking back your power. In our next chapter, we'll dive into the cost of emotional reactivity. We'll get honest about how your uncontrolled emotions are impacting your relationships, career, and physical well-being. This might be a tough chapter to listen to, but it will give you the motivation you need to fully commit to the rest of this journey. Let's move on. Chapter 3: The Cost of Emotional Reactivity. In the last chapter, you became a detective, mapping the emotional triggers that cause you to lose control. Now, let's get honest about why this journey is so important. If you're like most people, you know that uncontrolled emotions have a cost, but you might not have fully faced what that cost really is. This chapter isn't here to make you feel bad. It's here to give you the fuel you need to commit to this journey. Because once you're clear on what emotional reactivity is costing you, you'll be more motivated than ever to change. The cost to your relationships. When you get hijacked by your emotions, the people closest to you are the ones who feel it the most. Your partner, your children, your best friend, or your parents. Every time you have a sudden outburst, a defensive retort, or a cold emotional shutdown, you're creating small cracks in the foundation of your relationships. Think about it. Trust is eroded. When you're unpredictable and prone to emotional outbursts, people start walking on eggshells around you. They no longer feel emotionally safe enough to be fully open and honest. Communication breaks down. You can't have a productive conversation when your emotions are running high. Instead of solving a problem, you end up creating a bigger one, often leaving both parties feeling hurt and misunderstood. Intimacy suffers. Relationships thrive on emotional connection. When you pull away or put up walls, you lose that intimacy. Your partner may begin to feel like they are alone in the relationship, or that they have to tiptoe around you. Over time, that distance can become a chasm. In essence, uncontrolled emotions prevent you from being the kind of partner, parent, or friend you want to be. The love and goodwill that you've built over time can slowly be chipped away by moments of emotional reactivity. The cost to your career and reputation. The professional world can be a perfect storm for emotional triggers, and your reactions can have serious consequences. You damage your reputation. In the workplace, your ability to remain calm under pressure is often more valued than your technical skills. A single outburst, a moment of road rage in the company parking lot, or an inability to take feedback can overshadow years of good work. Your colleagues and superiors may subconsciously label you as unstable or unprofessional, which can limit your opportunities for growth. You stall your career. Leaders and managers are often chosen for their ability to handle stress, manage conflict, and lead with composure. If you're seen as someone who loses it under pressure, you'll be passed over for promotions. You might be brilliant at what you do, but your career trajectory will be limited by your inability to manage yourself. You lose respect. When you react emotionally, you give away your power. You may win the argument in the short term, but you'll lose the respect of those around you. They'll start to see you as someone who is easily rattled or provoked, and your influence will diminish. The cost here is not just about a title or a salary. It's about your sense of professional pride and your ability to build a respected career that you can feel good about. The cost to your physical and mental health. Emotional reactivity doesn't just impact others, it takes a tremendous toll on you. Every time your amygdala launches a hijack, it floods your system with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Physical health. When this happens repeatedly, the constant state of stress can lead to a range of physical issues. From high blood pressure and chronic headaches to digestive problems and a weakened immune system. Your body is not designed to be in a constant state of fight or flight, and the more often it happens, the more it wears you down. Mental health, the mental cost is just as high. Emotional reactivity can lead to chronic anxiety, because you're constantly worried about what might trigger you next. It can also lead to feelings of shame and regret, as you replay the moments you wish you had handled differently. This can lower your self-esteem and lead to a sense of powerlessness, trapping you in a cycle of reactivity and regret. The empowering truth. If any of this sounds familiar, don't feel discouraged. This isn't a life sentence. This is simply a clear-eyed look at what's at stake. The good news is that every single one of these costs can be reversed. As you learn to master your emotions, you will repair your relationships by building trust and creating emotional safety. Enhance your career by showing up as a composed and respected leader. Heal your body and mind by breaking the cycle of stress and regret. This is your why. The next chapters are your how. You are not broken, and you are not a lost cause. You are a person ready to learn a new way of being, and the rewards are immeasurable. In our next chapter, we'll dive into the Emotional Regulation Toolkit overview. We'll introduce 5 core techniques that you can use to manage emotions in any situation and set a clear path for the rest of your journey. Let's move on. Chapter 4, the Emotional Regulation Toolkit overview. In the last chapter, you got honest about the true cost of emotional reactivity. You saw how a few seconds of a brain hijack can damage your relationships, stall your career, and take a toll on your health. Now, it's time to build the solution. This chapter is your map. It's an overview of the 5 core tools that make up your emotional regulation toolkit. Think of it like this: if your brain is an engine, these are the tools you'll use to tune it, so it runs smoothly even on the bumpiest roads. The key isn't just knowing the tools, it's knowing when to use each one. 5 foundational tools for emotional mastery. Every technique you'll learn in this audiobook falls into one of these 5 categories. They are designed to work together, giving you a complete system for managing any emotional challenge. The crisis circuit breakers, these are your in-the-moment tools. They're designed to stop an emotional hijack as it's happening. They're quick, simple, and act as a pause button, giving your rational brain a chance to get back online. You've already learned the first of these, the stop method, but you'll also learn other physical and mental techniques you can use when you feel overwhelmed. The mindset shifters, these are the tools you use to change your perspective. When an emotional trigger hits, it's often because your mind is telling you a story that isn't completely true, a story of being attacked, disrespected, or controlled. Mindset shifters are techniques that help you question and reframe these unhelpful thoughts in real time. The communication strategies, emotions don't exist in a vacuum. Most of the time, they come up in conversations with other people. These tools teach you how to communicate your needs and listen to others without losing your composure. They are your playbook for de-escalating conflicts and expressing yourself effectively, even when your emotions are running high. The situational blueprints, the second part of this audiobook, is dedicated entirely to this category. These blueprints provide specific, step-by-step plans for managing emotions in the most common, high-pressure situations, workplace conflicts, family arguments, daily frustrations, and social interactions. The resilience builders, these are the long-term tools. You don't just want to react better in moments of stress, you want to build a foundation of emotional strength so that you get triggered less often. These are the daily practices, like mindfulness, self-awareness, and creating a supportive environment, that build your emotional intelligence over time. When to use each technique. You wouldn't use a hammer to put a screw into a wall. In the same way, you need to know which emotional tool to use for which situation. When you're already in the red zone, use the crisis circuit breakers. If you feel your body heating up, your heart racing, and your mind going blank, your first and only job is to press the pause button. That's a job for the stop method and other quick physical techniques. When you're navigating a difficult conversation, this is when you use your communication strategies and mindset shifters. Once you've paused, you can use these tools to choose your words carefully and see the situation from a different perspective. When you're preparing for a challenge, use your situational blueprints. If you know you have a tough meeting coming up or a difficult conversation with a family member, you can use these blueprints to mentally prepare and practice a better response. When you're not stressed at all, this is the most important time to use your resilience builders. The work you do in a calm state, practicing mindfulness, journaling, and building self-awareness, is what prepares you for the stressful moments you can't predict. Setting realistic expectations for your journey. This is not a quick fix. You're not going to listen to this audiobook once and suddenly become a perfectly calm, unbothered human. That's not how your brain works. Think of it like learning to play the piano. You can't just read about the keys and then sit down and play a masterpiece. You have to practice. You'll hit the wrong notes, you'll feel frustrated, and you'll want to give up. But every time you practice, you're building new muscle memory. Emotional control is the same. You're building new neural pathways, and that takes time and repetition. You'll have setbacks. You will lose your cool. But the key is that you'll have the tools to recover faster and learn from your mistakes, which we'll cover in a later chapter. The goal is progress, not perfection. This audiobook is not about becoming a robot who never feels emotions. It's about developing a healthier relationship with your emotions, so they serve you instead of sabotaging you. You now have a clear understanding of your emotional blueprint and an overview of the tools we're going to build together. In the next part of this audiobook, we're going to apply these tools to the most common emotional minefields in your life. We'll begin with the one that affects so many of us on a daily basis, the workplace. In our next chapter, we'll dive into specific strategies for managing emotions in workplace conflicts. Let's move on. Chapter 5: Managing Emotions in Workplace Conflicts. In the last part of the audiobook, we took a high-level look at the tools in your emotional regulation toolkit. Now, we're going to get to work. We'll start with a place that's often the biggest source of stress and emotional reactivity in our lives, the workplace. The average person spends a third of their life at work. That's a lot of time spent navigating deadlines, pressure, and, most importantly, other people. The stakes here are high, as a moment of emotional reactivity can damage your reputation, your relationships with colleagues, and your career progression. In this chapter, we'll equip you with specific blueprints for 3 common workplace scenarios: dealing with difficult people, handling criticism, and controlling your emotions in public settings like meetings. Dealing with difficult colleagues and bosses. Almost everyone has a story about a difficult colleague or a frustrating boss. They can feel like walking triggers. The micromanager who constantly questions your work. The complainer who drains your energy. The critical boss who never seems satisfied. The key to dealing with these people is not to change them, but to manage your response to them. Here are a few strategies. Stop taking it personally. This is the most important mindset shift. When a micromanager questions your work, your amygdala might tell you it's a sign they don't trust you, which feels like a threat. But the reality is, their behavior is often about their own anxiety and need for control. The moment you reframe it as their issue, not yours, you can stop getting triggered. Use I statements to set boundaries. When someone's behavior is triggering you, you can't control them, but you can control what you will or won't tolerate. This requires you to communicate your needs clearly and calmly. Instead of saying, "You are always interrupting me in meetings," which is an accusation, try an I statement: "I find it difficult to finish my thought when I get interrupted. Could you let me finish before jumping in?" This is a non-confrontational way to set a boundary. Create space. If a colleague's negativity is constantly draining your energy, you have the right to create physical and emotional space. You can politely say, "I need to get back to my work, but I'd love to chat later," or simply limit your interactions with them. This is not avoidance, it's a strategic way to protect your emotional energy. Handling criticism and feedback without defensiveness. Nothing triggers the amygdala quite like criticism. Your brain perceives it as a threat to your social standing, and it will immediately launch a defensive response. You'll either want to fight back, arguing with the person who gave you the feedback, or you'll want to flee, shutting down and avoiding the conversation. Here is a step-by-step blueprint for receiving feedback with composure. Step 1. Pause and breathe. The moment you hear the criticism, you will feel your body tense up. This is the perfect time to use your stop method. Stop. Take a deep, slow breath. This small pause prevents an immediate verbal reaction and gives your thinking brain a chance to get back online. Step 2. Listen without responding. Your first instinct will be to formulate a counterargument. Instead, focus on truly listening to what the other person is saying. Do not interrupt. Just listen. This shows respect and gives you more information to work with. Step 3. Ask clarifying questions. Once they've finished, ask questions to better understand their perspective. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," you can say, "Could you give me an example of what you mean?" or "What outcome would have been better in that situation?" This puts you in a place of curiosity, which is the opposite of defensiveness. Step 4. Defer for a moment. It's okay to not have an immediate response. It's better to say nothing than to say something you regret. You can calmly say, "Thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. I need some time to process this, and then I'll follow up with you." This is an incredibly powerful statement that shows confidence and control. Controlling anger during meetings and presentations. Meetings are public stages for emotional hijacking. Your amygdala is on high alert, scanning for social threats. You're being watched by your peers and superiors, and a public disagreement or a cutting remark can feel like a direct attack on your reputation. Here is a blueprint for staying composed in meetings. Prepare in advance. If you know a meeting will be tense or difficult, take 5 minutes beforehand to prepare yourself. Go over the agenda, visualize potential triggers, and mentally rehearse a calm response. For example, if you know a certain colleague often dismisses your ideas, visualize yourself taking a deep breath and calmly saying, "I appreciate your perspective. Let me elaborate on my point." Use your breath as an anchor. When you feel a trigger hit, maybe someone interrupted you or openly disagreed with you, gently shift your focus to your breath. Breathe slowly and deliberately as you listen to their point. This simple physical action will help keep your nervous system in check and your rational brain online. Use a verbal timeout. When you're put on the spot, you don't have to react immediately. You can buy yourself time with a simple phrase. Instead of blurting out a response, try saying, "That's an interesting point. Let me think about that for a moment," or "I want to make sure I fully understand. Can you repeat that?" This gives you a few seconds to gather your thoughts and avoid an emotional response. These strategies are blueprints. They are not one-size-fits-all solutions, but they will give you a framework for handling some of the most common emotional challenges you face at work. The key is to start practicing them. Every time you successfully navigate a workplace conflict using these tools, you are one step closer to making emotional control a habit. Now that we've covered the professional sphere, we're going to move into a much more intimate one, your personal relationships and family. The emotional triggers here can be even more sensitive and deeply rooted, which we'll explore in our next chapter. Let's move on. Chapter 6: Relationship and Family Emotional Control. You've learned how to stay composed in the workplace. Now, we're going to apply your emotional toolkit to a much more intimate, and often more challenging, arena, your personal relationships and family. These are the people you love most, but they are also the people who can push your buttons like no one else. The emotional triggers here are often deeply rooted in shared history and old wounds. While the stakes are different from a work meeting, the need for emotional control is just as high, if not higher. In this chapter, We'll give you blueprints for managing arguments with your partner, navigating tricky family dynamics, and staying calm while parenting. Managing emotions during arguments with partners. An argument with a partner can feel like a direct threat to your security and happiness, which is why it so easily triggers your amygdala. The key here is to move from a place of fighting to a place of understanding. The verbal timeout, this is your most powerful tool. The moment you feel the heat rising, the urge to say something hurtful, or the impulse to defend yourself, you must stop. Instead of lashing out, use a pre-planned phrase to create a pause. Say something like, "I'm feeling really triggered right now, and I need a moment before I say something I'll regret. My emotions are getting in the way. Can we take a 5-minute break and come back to this? I want to solve this with you, not against you. Let's take a beat." This is not an escape. It's a strategic move that shows self-awareness and respect for your partner. Use de-escalation phrases. Once you've paused and taken a breath, you can use language that lowers the emotional temperature. The goal is to move from "you're wrong" to "help me understand." Try these phrases. "I hear what you're saying. Can you tell me more? My perspective is X, but I want to understand yours. What would a good outcome look like for you?" These phrases show that you are in a problem-solving mindset, not a fighting mindset. Dealing with family conflicts and generational differences. Family gatherings can be emotional minefields. Conversations about politics, life choices, or old disagreements can quickly spiral. The key to navigating these situations is to recognize that you can accept someone's perspective without agreeing with it. Practice acceptance, not agreement. You don't have to change your aunt's mind about her political views. You don't have to convince your parents that your career choice is the right one. Your goal is simply to protect your own emotional state. Remind yourself, "I can accept that their perspective is valid for them, without it needing to change my own." Use the broken record technique. This is for when someone is repeatedly pushing a trigger button or a boundary. Instead of getting into a long, emotional debate, calmly repeat your boundary or position. "I hear what you're saying, but I'm not going to discuss my personal finances. I understand your concern, but I'm happy with my life choices. I appreciate your advice, but this is a decision I've made." The key is to say it in a calm, neutral tone. This communicates that the conversation is over and that their words are not triggering a reaction. Parenting without losing your temper. When you're a parent, a child's behavior can feel like a direct challenge to your authority and patience. This is especially true when they're screaming, not listening, or having a tantrum in public. Your amygdala is on high alert, and a hijack can happen instantly. Understand your child's brain. Remember that your child's emotional regulation system is still under development. They are not acting out to intentionally provoke you, they are overwhelmed. This simple truth can help you reframe their behavior from an attack on you to a sign that they need help regulating their own emotions. The 3-breath pause, this is your core parenting tool. The moment your child's behavior starts to escalate and you feel your own emotions rising, your job is to pause and breathe. Stop. Do not say or do anything. Take 3 deep, slow breaths. This is a non-negotiable step. As you do, silently repeat a calming mantra like, "I can handle this," or "I am in control." Then, and only then, respond. This pause gives your rational brain a chance to get back online and choose a calm, helpful response instead of a reactive, angry one. Model co-regulation. Your primary job as a parent in a heated moment is to co-regulate with your child. You cannot teach a child to be calm if you are not calm yourself. By using the 3-breath pause, you are modeling emotional self-control, which is the most valuable lesson you can ever teach them. You are now armed with blueprints for navigating some of the most sensitive and emotional situations in your life. The next time you face a difficult conversation, a family conflict, or a parenting challenge, you can choose to respond from a place of intention, rather than reaction. In our next chapter, we'll turn our attention to the outside world, learning how to stay composed and confident in social situations and public interactions. Let's move on. Chapter 7: Social Situations and Public Interactions. We've covered the professional and personal spheres, the two worlds where you spend most of your time. Now, we're going to turn our attention to the unpredictable, outside world of social situations and public interactions. This is where you might encounter strangers, crowds, or have to step onto a public stage. The triggers here are often tied to fears of judgment, embarrassment, and social threat. In this chapter, we'll give you blueprints for managing emotions when you feel social anxiety, when a stranger is confrontational, or when you have to face a public audience. Controlling embarrassment and social anxiety. Social anxiety is an emotional hijack in its purest form. Your amygdala perceives a social setting as a threat, triggering a fight-or-flight response. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and you might feel the urge to flee. The key is to disengage from your anxious thoughts and reconnect with the present moment. Shift your focus from inward to outward. When you feel anxious, your attention is focused entirely on yourself. You're thinking, do I look stupid? Is my voice shaking? What are they thinking of me? This inward focus is what fuels the anxiety loop. To break it, consciously shift your attention outward. Look at the color of the person's eyes you're talking to. Notice the details on the wall behind them. This simple act of observation pulls your rational mind back into the present and disrupts the emotional hijack. Reframe the stakes. Your brain tells you that if you make a mistake, it will be a catastrophe. This is a cognitive distortion. Ask yourself, what's the worst that can actually happen? The answer is usually that you might feel awkward or someone might briefly think something negative about you. In a week, no one will remember. By reframing the situation to its true stakes, which are almost always much lower than your brain perceives, you can calm your nervous system. Dealing with confrontational strangers. The grocery store, the street, or the parking lot can suddenly become a stage for an emotional ambush. Someone is rude, aggressive, or tries to pick a fight. Your instinct will be to defend yourself, either by fighting back or by avoiding them. Both can lead to a state of emotional reactivity. Avoid the power struggle. Confrontational people want to pull you into a power struggle. The moment you argue with them, you've engaged in their game. The best way to de-escalate is to refuse to engage. Do not raise your voice. Do not get defensive. A simple, okay, thank you, and walking away can be an incredibly powerful act. You are communicating that you are in control of your own emotions and not interested in their emotional drama. Use de-escalation phrases. If you must respond, use a de-escalation phrase. Your goal is not to win the argument, but to end the interaction without a fight. I can see you're upset. I'm sorry you feel that way. I understand you have a point of view. Let's agree to disagree. I don't have time for this, so I'm going to walk away now. These phrases show that you are not taking the bait and you're maintaining your composure. Managing emotions during public speaking or social events. Public speaking is a top fear for many people, precisely because it triggers the amygdala's fear of judgment and social rejection. A bad social event can feel like a similar emotional minefield. Practice progressive muscle relaxation. Before you go on stage or into a social event, take a moment to use a physical grounding technique. Sit down and tense and release each muscle group in your body, one by one. Start with your feet, then calves, then thighs, and so on, all the way up to your jaw and forehead. This practice releases physical tension and sends a calming signal to your brain. The message, not myself mindset. When you're speaking publicly, your emotional brain is focused on yourself. Am I doing this right? Do I sound smart? Your job is to shift to your message. Focus on the value you are giving the audience. Tell yourself, this isn't about me. It's about what I'm sharing with them. This mindset shift from self-focus to audience focus can dissolve anxiety. Use your breath as a calming tool. If you feel your voice shaking or your heart racing, pause and take a single, deliberate breath. As you do, imagine that you are pulling in confidence and clarity, and as you exhale, you're releasing fear and anxiety. This is a simple but profound way to take control of your physiology and, in turn, your emotions. You now have blueprints for navigating emotional challenges in almost every area of your life. The key is to start with the areas that affect you most and begin putting these techniques into practice. In our next chapter, we'll move from the everyday to the extreme, learning how to stay calm when life throws you a curveball. We'll give you a blueprint for high-stress situations and crisis management. Let's move on. Chapter 8: High-stress situations and crisis management. So far, we've focused on managing emotions in the everyday pressure of life, work meetings, family arguments, and social events. But what about when a real crisis hits? When you get unexpected bad news, a financial stressor, a health scare, or an actual emergency? In these moments, your amygdala doesn't just launch a hijack, it goes into full-scale lockdown. Your body is flooded with stress hormones, your mind goes blank, and you can feel completely paralyzed. The good news is that the same tools we've been building can be adapted for these extreme moments. This chapter will give you a blueprint for staying calm when your world feels like it's falling apart. The 5-second plan for bad news. Receiving bad news, whether it's a diagnosis, a job loss, or a personal setback, is a shock to your system. Your brain will immediately want to jump to the worst-case scenario, and a sense of panic can set in. Your first line of defense is the 5-second plan. It's a crisis-level adaptation of the stop method. Stop, the moment you hear the news, do not speak. Take a single, intentional pause. This is a moment of power. Breathe, take a deep, slow breath. This is the single most important physiological intervention you can make in a crisis. It will help ground your nervous system and prevent a full-blown panic attack. Acknowledge, silently acknowledge the fear and pain. Tell yourself, this is really hard. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. This simple act of self-compassion can help prevent emotional shutdown. Ask for time, you do not have to have an immediate reaction. You have the right to process. Say something like, I need a moment to process this. Thank you for telling me. Can we talk about this later today? I appreciate you sharing this with me. I need to take a step back and think. This plan allows you to absorb the initial shock without going into a full emotional reaction. You can then process the information calmly and make rational decisions from a place of clarity, not fear. Managing financial stress and major life changes. Financial stress is a constant, low-grade trigger for millions of people. It's a feeling of being in a constant state of threat, and it can wear down your emotional resilience over time. Separate feelings from facts. When you're stressed about money, your emotional brain will tell you stories about your future. I'm going to lose everything, or I'll never be able to afford X. These are not facts, they are fears. To combat this, take out a piece of paper and write down the facts of your financial situation. What is the actual number? What is the actual debt? By moving from a place of emotional narrative to a place of objective facts, you can begin to make rational plans instead of reactive, fear-based decisions. Focus on what you can control. Financial crises and major life changes often feel overwhelming because they're full of things you can't control. To combat this feeling of powerlessness, make a list of everything that is within your control. You may not be able to control the job market, but you can control how many applications you send out each day. You may not be able to control the unexpected bill, but you can control your budget for the next month. By focusing on what you can control, you shift your mindset from victim to problem solver. Health crises and unexpected bad news. When you or a loved one receives unexpected bad news about a health issue, it can feel like a direct, life-or-death threat. Your emotional brain goes into overdrive. Use physical grounding techniques. In these moments, you must bring your mind back into your body. Use a technique like the 5-4-3-2-1 method. Look around you and notice 5 things you can see. Name 4 things you can feel. Name 3 things you can hear. Name 2 things you can smell. And name 1 thing you can taste. This sensory exercise helps interrupt the loop of anxious thoughts and brings you back to the present moment. Practice compassionate self-talk. Your inner voice can either be your worst critic or your greatest ally in a crisis. When you feel a wave of fear or panic, practice compassionate self-talk. Say something like, "It's okay to feel scared. This is a lot to handle. You are doing the best you can right now." This is not about denying your fear, it's about accepting it and responding with kindness, which will help keep your nervous system from going into full panic mode. These strategies for high-stress situations are your insurance policy. You hope you never have to use them, but if you do, they will be there. They will help you find a calm, centered place in the midst of chaos. In our next chapter, we'll move back to the smaller, everyday frustrations that can still trigger a full emotional reaction. We'll learn how to master your emotions in traffic, travel, and daily frustrations. Let's move on. Chapter 9, Traffic, Travel, and Daily Frustrations. We've covered the big emotional challenges, from the workplace to personal crises. But what about the small, daily irritations that can still completely derail your mood? The person in front of you who's driving too slow. The long line at the coffee shop. The flight delay. These moments aren't life-threatening, but your amygdala still perceives them as a threat to your goals, your time, and your patience. The result is a low-grade emotional hijack that can leave you feeling drained and frustrated. This chapter will give you a blueprint for handling these small but significant emotional minefields with grace. Road rage prevention and control. Driving is one of the most common places for emotional reactivity. You're in a metal box, you feel anonymous, and you feel a lack of control. A simple traffic jam or a rude driver can feel like a personal attack. Change your mantra. The mindset of a road rage episode is, "I'm in a hurry, and this person is intentionally trying to get in my way." This thought is a lie. The other driver isn't thinking about you at all. To combat this, change your mantra to, "This is not about me." When someone cuts you off, silently say, "That's their problem, not mine." Or, "They're probably in a hurry too. It's okay." By detaching yourself from the situation, you stop taking it personally. Use your breath as a calming anchor. If you feel the anger rising, your body will tell you by tensing up. Take a deep, deliberate breath. As you inhale, mentally say, "Calm." As you exhale, say, "Release." This simple practice gives your mind something else to focus on besides your frustration, and it sends a signal to your nervous system to relax. Create a sanctuary. Turn your car into a sanctuary, not a battleground. Put on music that calms you. Listen to an interesting podcast or an audiobook. By making your car a place of peace and entertainment, you make it much harder for external frustrations to get in. Dealing with delays, cancellations, and inconveniences. You're at the airport, and your flight is delayed. Or you're at a restaurant, and your reservation isn't ready. Your emotional brain will feel a flash of injustice and frustration. Shift from, "I'm being punished," to, "This is an opportunity." Your emotional brain sees a delay as a punishment. Your rational brain can see it as an opportunity. A delayed flight is an opportunity to read, catch up on work, or just sit and practice mindfulness. A long line is an opportunity to observe the world around you instead of staring at your phone. By reframing the situation, you turn a source of frustration into a source of peace. Practice gratitude in the moment. When you feel frustration rising, take a moment to look at your life from a place of gratitude. Be grateful you have the money to travel. Be grateful you have a home to get back to. Be grateful you have a life that is so full it sometimes has inconveniences. This practice doesn't solve the problem, but it changes your emotional state completely. Managing impatience in lines and waiting situations. Waiting in line for coffee or at the DMV can feel like a direct assault on your time. You feel your impatience rising, and you just want to get to the front. Reclaim your time. You feel like you're losing time, but the truth is, you're not. You're simply in a different phase of your day. Use this time to do something productive or calming. Respond to a text, make a to-do list in your head, or use the time to check in with your body and your breath. Observe your thoughts without judgment. When you're waiting, your mind will race with frustrated thoughts. This is ridiculous. Why are they so slow? I have so much to do. Instead of getting sucked into these thoughts, simply observe them. See them as clouds passing in the sky. You can say to yourself, there's a thought about how slow this is. Interesting. This simple act of observation separates you from your negative thoughts. By mastering your emotions in these small, daily frustrations, you build emotional muscle. The person who can stay calm in traffic or in a long line is the same person who can stay calm in a workplace crisis or a family argument. You've now completed the second part of this audiobook, and you have blueprints for navigating emotional challenges in every area of your life. In the next part, we'll dive into the specific, powerful techniques you can use in the exact moment a trigger hits. We'll begin with a deeper look at the stop technique for immediate emotional control. Let's move on. Chapter 10, Digital Age Emotional Control. We've covered the traffic jams, the airport delays, and the small frustrations of everyday life. But there's another arena that's constantly triggering our emotions, the digital world. From the curated feeds of social media to the lightning-fast pace of messaging, the digital age has introduced a whole new set of emotional challenges. Our brains are reacting to notifications, comments, and online conflicts as if they were real-world threats, leading to a constant state of low-grade emotional reactivity. This chapter will give you the blueprints to master your emotions in this modern-day minefield. Managing reactions to social media and online conflicts. Social media is a highlight reel, a curated, edited version of other people's lives. Your amygdala doesn't know this. It compares your raw, unfiltered life to everyone else's perfect moments, which can trigger feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, and social anxiety. The highlight reel blueprint. When you feel a surge of comparison or envy on social media, use this simple blueprint. Remind yourself that you are looking at an advertisement for someone's life, not the full story. The photos don't show the long hours, the behind-the-scenes struggles, or the moments of quiet disappointment. By reframing what you see, you can dissolve the power of the comparison trap. Is this battle worth fighting? Blueprint. The comment section of the internet is a battleground. An online comment can feel like a direct attack, and your instinct is to fight back. Before you type a single word, ask yourself, is this battle worth fighting? Will arguing with a stranger change their mind? Will it make you feel better in the long run? The answer is almost always no. By choosing not to engage, you are protecting your peace and refusing to be drawn into someone else's emotional drama. Dealing with negative comments and cyberbullying. A negative comment from a stranger or a friend can feel like a direct threat to your self-worth. It can trigger feelings of shame, anger, or sadness. The key is to separate the comment from yourself. The blueprint of detachment. Imagine the negative comment as a single word written in the sand. A wave comes and washes it away. It's a fleeting moment. The comment is just a few words on a screen from a person who doesn't know you. Practice observing the comment without letting it define you. Tell yourself, this is not about me. It's just a reflection of their own internal world. Do not respond immediately. Your first instinct will be to respond. This is your amygdala telling you to fight back. Instead, use a digital version of the verbal timeout. Close the app. Put your phone down. Wait for at least 15 minutes before you do anything. If you still feel the need to respond, craft your reply from a place of calm, not from a place of anger. Most of the time, you'll find that the best response is no response at all. Controlling impulses to respond immediately. The constant stream of notifications, a text message, an email, a social media alert, creates a sense of urgency. Your brain gets a small dopamine hit every time it hears a ping, and it feels a need to respond immediately. This keeps you in a constant state of emotional alert and makes you more susceptible to triggers. The blueprint of the digital buffer zone: take back control of your attention and your emotions by creating a digital buffer zone. Turn off notifications. Notifications are designed to pull you away from what you are doing and demand an immediate response. Turn off all non-essential notifications on your phone. Create unplugged time. Set specific times each day, even just 30 minutes, where you are completely unplugged. Put your phone in another room or turn it on silent. This practice strengthens your ability to resist the urge to constantly check your phone. Use the 3-breath pause. Before you open a text or an email, pause. Take 3 deliberate breaths. This simple act creates space between the stimulus and your response, allowing you to approach your messages from a place of intention rather than reactivity. You have now completed the first 2 parts of this audiobook. You have an understanding of your emotional blueprint and situational blueprints for every area of your life, from work to home to the digital world. In the final part of this journey, we're going to give you the most powerful in-the-moment techniques that you can use the very second a trigger hits. These are your tools to apply when you feel a hijack coming on. In our next chapter, we'll dive deep into the first and most powerful of these tools, the stop technique for immediate emotional control. Let's move on. Chapter 11, the stop technique for immediate emotional control. You've learned about the science of emotional hijacking. You've mapped your personal triggers. You've even got a sense of how to navigate high-stakes situations in every area of your life. But now we get to the core of this entire journey. What do you do in the exact moment a trigger hits and you feel that familiar surge of heat, anger, or anxiety? Your first and most powerful line of defense is a simple technique that will become your lifeline. It's called the stop method. The stop method is a cognitive circuit breaker. It's designed to interrupt the milliseconds-long process of an emotional hijack and give your rational, thinking brain just enough time to get back online. It's a deceptively simple 4-step process that you can use in any situation: a heated argument, a frustrating traffic jam, or a moment of unexpected stress. Here are the 4 steps. Stop what you're doing. The very first step is to physically and mentally freeze. The moment you feel that familiar feeling of your body tensing up, your heart racing, or a flash of anger, you must pause. Stop talking. Stop walking. Stop typing. This step is crucial because it creates a tiny space between the trigger and your usual, automatic reaction. This isn't about ignoring your feelings, it's about hitting the pause button so you can respond with intention, rather than just reacting with impulse. It's a simple, but profound, act of self-control. Take a breath. Once you've paused, your next action is to take one single, deliberate, slow, deep breath. When you're in a state of emotional arousal, your breath becomes shallow and rapid. Taking a deep breath sends a powerful signal to your nervous system that you are not in a life-or-death situation. It helps to ground you and calm your physical body. Inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Then, exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. As you exhale, imagine you are releasing the tension and heat from your body. This one breath is often all it takes to prevent a full-blown emotional hijack. Observe what's happening. After you've paused and taken that deep breath, you shift your attention inward. This is the detective part of the process, and you do it without judgment. Ask yourself these questions. What am I feeling in my body? Is my jaw clenched? Are my shoulders tight? Is my stomach in a knot? What is the emotion I'm feeling? Is it anger? Frustration? Hurt? Fear? Sadness? What thought just went through my mind? Was it, "This is so unfair"? Or, "They're trying to control me"? This simple act of observation pulls your mind out of the emotional spiral. You are no longer just the emotion, you are the person who is observing the emotion. P. Proceed with intention. Now that you've created a pause, breathed, and observed what's happening, you can choose how to respond. This is your chance to break your old pattern and build a new one. Ask yourself, what's my goal here? Is my goal to be right, or to solve the problem? Is it to win the argument, or to maintain a relationship? What action would serve my long-term goals? What's a better way to handle this than my usual reaction? The answer might be to say something calmly, to ask a question, or even to say, I need to take a 5-minute break from this conversation. The key is that you are now choosing your response rather than just reacting. Putting the stop method into practice. The stop method is a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice. Don't wait until you're in the middle of a full-blown argument to try it. Use it for small, daily frustrations. Example: the friend who is always late. You're waiting for a friend who's 20 minutes late, and you feel your frustration building. Your heart rate is increasing, and you're replaying all the times they've been late before. Stop. You're about to text them an angry message. You stop. T. Take a breath. You inhale slowly, counting to 4, and exhale slowly, counting to 6. O. Observe. I feel frustrated. My shoulders are tense. The thought is, they don't respect my time. P. Proceed. My goal is to have a good evening with my friend, not to pick a fight. I will send a simple text, hey, no rush, just checking in. See you soon. The true power of the stop method lies in creating that tiny pause, just 1 second, that gives you the moment of choice. It's the difference between reacting and responding. Looking ahead. This method is your first line of defense. But you also have a whole host of other tools at your disposal. In our next chapter, we'll build on this by learning physical techniques for instant calm. These are a vital complement to the stop method, giving you more ways to soothe your nervous system in the heat of a moment. Let's move on. Chapter 12, Physical Techniques for Instant Calm. In the last chapter, you learned how to use the stop method to create a crucial pause between a trigger and your reaction. Now, we're going to dive deeper and give you tools that work directly on your physiology. Because a full emotional hijack isn't just a mental event, it's a physical one. Your heart races, your muscles tense, and your breath becomes shallow. The key insight here is that you can use your body to send a powerful signal back to your brain. You can actively tell your nervous system, I am not in danger. We can stand down. This chapter will give you 3 of the most powerful physical techniques for instant calm. Deep breathing exercises for any situation. When your amygdala is in charge, your breathing speeds up. To reverse this, you must deliberately slow it down. This simple act activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's built-in calm-down switch. The most effective breathing technique is what's known as belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. Here's how to do it. Sit or stand up straight. Place one hand on your chest and the other on your stomach, just below your ribs. Inhale slowly and deeply through your nose. As you inhale, focus on your belly rising, pushing your hand outward. Your chest should remain still. Exhale slowly and completely through your mouth. Your stomach should fall inward. Repeat this for 3 to 5 breaths. This practice is your secret weapon. You can do it anywhere, in a meeting, in a car, or in a public space, and no one will even notice. It's a silent, powerful way to interrupt a wave of panic or anger. Progressive muscle relaxation for tension release. When you're under emotional stress, your body holds tension. You might not even realize your jaw is clenched, your shoulders are hunched, or your hands are in fists. Progressive muscle relaxation is the practice of systematically tensing and then relaxing different muscle groups to release that built-up stress. Here's a quick version you can use in the moment. Clench your fists as tight as you can for 5 seconds, then release. Feel the tension flow out of your hands. Raise your shoulders up to your ears, hold for 5 seconds, then drop them. Feel the release. Clench your jaw and hold for 5 seconds, then let your jaw go loose. Tense your stomach muscles and hold for 5 seconds, then release. By focusing on the feeling of tension and the subsequent release, you are actively giving your body a signal that the threat is gone. This simple practice helps you discharge the physical energy of a hijack and come back to a place of physical calm. Using your senses to ground yourself. Sometimes, your mind is racing so fast that you can't even focus on your breath or your muscles. In those moments, you need to pull your mind out of the emotional spiral and anchor it in the present. The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method uses your 5 senses to do this. When you feel overwhelmed, stop and do the following. Name 5 things you can see in the room around you. Look for specific details. I see a blue pen, a wooden table, a gray computer, a bright lamp, and a plant. Name 4 things you can feel. Focus on physical sensations. I feel the chair on my back, the texture of my pants, the warmth of my coffee cup, and the cool air on my face. Name 3 things you can hear. Listen for ambient sounds. I hear the hum of the refrigerator, a bird outside, and the clock ticking. Name 2 things you can smell. Focus on any sense around you. I smell my coffee and the clean air. Name 1 thing you can taste. This could be a lingering taste from a drink or food, or you can just notice the taste in your mouth. I taste the faint sweetness from my snack. This exercise is incredibly effective because it forces your rational brain to engage. It breaks the cycle of anxious thought and pulls you back to the reality of the present moment. These physical techniques are not just an addition to your toolkit, they are a vital foundation. They give you a way to calm your body, which then makes it possible for you to calm your mind. You can't think straight when your body is in a state of panic, so these are the tools you use to get your body back online. In our next chapter, we'll dive into the mental side of this work. Once your body is calm, you can use powerful mental strategies for emotional regulation to reframe situations and choose a different path. Let's move on. Chapter 13, Mental Strategies for Emotional Regulation. In the last chapter, you learned how to use physical tools like deep breathing and grounding to calm your body in the heat of a moment. Those are your emergency brakes. Once you've slowed your body down, the next step is to calm your mind. This chapter will give you the most powerful mental strategies for emotional regulation. These are techniques you use to take control of your thoughts, so you can change your feelings and choose a different response. Cognitive reappraisal in real time. Your emotional brain loves to tell you stories, and most of these stories are not true. When a trigger hits, your mind instantly jumps to the worst-case scenario. Cognitive reappraisal is the practice of consciously changing the story you're telling yourself about a situation. Here's how it works. Let's say a colleague doesn't respond to your email. Your emotional brain tells you a story: they're ignoring me. They don't respect my work. This is a deliberate slight. This story triggers feelings of anger and disrespect. With cognitive reappraisal, you pause and ask yourself, is there another explanation for this? Maybe your colleague is in a meeting. Maybe their inbox is completely full. Maybe they're dealing with a family emergency. By choosing one of these other stories, the emotional charge instantly disappears. You're not lying to yourself, you're simply choosing a more balanced, rational perspective over a negative, emotionally charged one. This single mental shift can stop an emotional hijack before it even begins. The 10-second rule for decision-making. Your emotional brain demands instant action. It wants you to send that angry text, make that sarcastic comment, or storm out of the room. The 10-second rule is a simple mental pause that gives you a moment of power. The next time you feel the urge to lash out, simply stop and count to 10 in your head. It seems too simple to be effective, but here's why it's a game changer. It forces a pause. That 10-second pause is long enough for your rational brain to get back online and override your impulsive, emotional brain. It gives you a moment to remember your goal. Is your goal to feel angry and send a text you'll regret? Or is it to maintain your relationships and peace of mind? You don't have to respond immediately to every text, email, or comment. By consciously waiting just 10 seconds, you reclaim your power and move from a state of mindless reaction to mindful response. Reframing negative situations quickly. Similar to cognitive reappraisal, reframing is a mental skill that helps you find a different perspective. It's about looking at a situation from a different angle to reduce its emotional impact. When something frustrating happens, like you get stuck in unexpected traffic, your emotional brain says, "This is a waste of my time. I'm going to be so late." To reframe this, ask yourself one of these questions. What's a positive aspect of this situation? You might realize it's a perfect time to listen to that podcast you've been meaning to start or an audiobook. How can I use this situation to my advantage? Maybe this is a moment to take a break from the stress of your day, practice some deep breathing, or just sit in silence. What will this look like a month from now? In a month, you won't even remember this traffic jam. This perspective helps you see that most small frustrations are just that, small. By asking a simple question, you force your mind to stop focusing on the negative and start looking for a more balanced perspective. This skill, when practiced, becomes second nature. These mental strategies, combined with the physical techniques we learned in the last chapter, give you a powerful 1-2 punch against emotional reactivity. You can calm your body, and you can change your mind. But once you've done the internal work, there's still one crucial step: effective communication. The best emotional regulation in the world won't matter if you can't express yourself clearly and calmly to others. In our next chapter, we'll dive into communication techniques during emotional moments and give you a blueprint for how to speak and listen when emotions are high. Let's move on. Chapter 14: Communication Techniques During Emotional Moments. You've learned how to calm your body with physical techniques and how to reframe your thoughts with mental strategies. Now, it's time to bring these internal tools to the outside world. Because most of our emotional triggers don't happen in a vacuum, they happen in conversations with other people. This chapter is your blueprint for communicating effectively when emotions are high. It's about speaking in a way that de-escalates a situation instead of escalating it, and knowing when to hit pause to prevent a full-blown emotional hijack. How to speak when emotions are high. When you feel anger or frustration, your emotional brain wants you to say, "You are so disrespectful," or "You always do this." These are what we call "you" statements, and they are like throwing gasoline on a fire. They put the other person on the defensive and immediately make them feel attacked. Instead, you're going to use the power of "I" statements. An "I" statement focuses on your own feelings and experiences, not on the other person's actions. It takes the blame out of the conversation and allows you to express your needs without starting a fight. Here's the formula: I feel, emotion, when, situation, because, my need. For example, instead of, "You never listen to me," say, "I feel unheard when you interrupt me, because I need to know my perspective is being considered." Instead of, "You're making me angry," say, "I feel angry when this happens, because it's a trigger for me and I need to feel respected." This simple shift changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. You're no longer attacking them, you're simply sharing your experience. De-escalation phrases that actually work. Sometimes, an argument is already spiraling out of control. In those moments, you need to use specific, intentional phrases to bring the emotional temperature down. These phrases are not about winning, they're about finding peace. Use these phrases to disarm a tense situation. To validate their feelings, you don't have to agree with someone to validate their feelings. Saying, "I hear what you're saying," or "I can see you're really upset," shows that you are listening. It takes away their need to be louder to feel heard. To buy yourself time, when you're on the spot, you don't have to have an immediate answer. Use phrases that give you a moment to collect your thoughts. That's an interesting point. Let me think about that for a second, or I want to make sure I fully understand. Could you explain what you mean? To focus on the solution, many arguments focus on blame. You can steer the conversation toward a solution by saying, "What would a good outcome look like for you?" or "How can we solve this together?" This shifts the focus from a problem to a solution. When to take a timeout and how to do it properly. Taking a timeout is one of the most powerful tools in your toolkit, but it must be done correctly. A proper timeout isn't an escape, it's a strategic move to prevent a full emotional hijack. A poorly executed timeout can feel like a punishment or an act of avoidance. Here is the blueprint for taking a timeout properly. Communicate your need calmly, do not just storm out of the room. Use an "I" statement to clearly state your intention. Say something like, "I am feeling too emotional to have a productive conversation right now. I need to take a break." This shows that you are in control of your emotions and that you are committed to the conversation. Give a specific time frame, this is critical. It shows that you are not running away from the problem. Say, "I need 20 minutes to calm down. Can we come back to this at 8:15, or I'll be back in the room in 10 minutes. Use the break for emotional regulation, go somewhere else and practice one of the techniques you've learned. Do a few deep breaths. Use the 5-4-3-2-1 method. Sit in silence for a few minutes. The purpose is to calm yourself, not to stew in anger or frustration. Re-engage as promised, this builds immense trust. When you return at the agreed-upon time, you are showing your partner or family member that you are truly committed to the relationship and solving the problem. The techniques in this chapter give you a new way to interact with others, a way that is intentional, not reactive. By changing the way you speak, listen, and respond, you can completely change the outcome of a difficult conversation. You now have a complete, in-the-moment toolkit for emotional control. But these skills are only useful if they become a habit. In our final chapters, we'll shift our focus to the long game and talk about building long-term emotional resilience so that you can maintain your progress and handle the inevitable setbacks that will come your way. Let's move on. Chapter 15, Creating Your Personal Emotional Management System. You've learned to be a detective of your triggers and a master of in-the-moment techniques. You have a powerful toolkit. But a toolkit is only useful if you know where it is and how to use it, and that comes from practice. This chapter is about moving beyond putting out emotional fires and building a long-term system for emotional fitness. Think of it like this: you don't just work out when you're preparing for a marathon. You work out every day to stay healthy. Emotional fitness is the same. It's the daily practice that builds your resilience so that when a crisis or a difficult moment comes, you're ready for it. Daily practices for emotional fitness. Emotional fitness is a habit, not a one-time event. Integrating these simple practices into your daily life is the single best way to build long-term emotional resilience. Mindfulness and meditation, this is the most foundational practice for emotional mastery. Mindfulness is simply the act of paying attention, on purpose, to the present moment without judgment. Just 5 to 10 minutes of daily meditation, sitting in silence and observing your thoughts without getting caught up in them, is a workout for your emotional regulation system. It trains your brain to be an observer, not a reactor. It teaches you that thoughts and feelings are temporary and do not have to control you. Journaling for self-awareness. Journaling is a powerful way to process emotions before they have a chance to hijack you. It's not about writing for an audience, it's about being honest with yourself. Spend a few minutes each day writing about what you're feeling and why. You can use a simple prompt like, "What was the most challenging emotional moment today, and what was the trigger?" This practice gives you incredible insight into your patterns. The daily gratitude practice. It's impossible to feel grateful and angry at the exact same time. A daily gratitude practice, even just for a minute, can rewire your brain to focus on the good. Take a moment each morning or evening to list 3 things you are grateful for. This simple act of focusing on the positive builds a powerful foundation that makes you less susceptible to negative triggers. Building emotional intelligence over time. Emotional intelligence, or EI, is the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, and to recognize and influence the emotions of those around you. It's not a trait you're born with, it's a skill you build. The daily practices we just talked about are what build the two core pillars of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness, this is the foundation of everything. It's the ability to recognize your emotions as you're feeling them and to understand their impact on your thoughts and behavior. Your daily journaling and mindfulness practice will make you highly attuned to your own internal state, so that you can catch a trigger before it takes over. Empathy. By understanding your own emotional journey and triggers, you build a deeper capacity for empathy. You begin to understand that other people's emotional reactions are often rooted in their own unique experiences, not in an intentional attempt to harm you. This understanding makes you less likely to get triggered by others and more capable of responding with compassion and grace. Creating supportive environments. You cannot build emotional resilience in a vacuum. The people you surround yourself with, and the environment you create, are a huge part of your system. Curate your social circle. The people you spend the most time with will have the biggest impact on your emotional state. Do you have a support system that celebrates your growth and encourages you to be your best self? Or are you spending time with people who constantly complain, trigger your negative emotions, or drain your energy? Be intentional about the people you allow into your life. Design a peaceful space. Your physical environment has a direct impact on your emotional state. A cluttered, disorganized space can lead to a cluttered, disorganized mind. Create a space in your home or office that feels calm and peaceful. This can be as simple as making sure your bed is made or your desk is clean. Mind your information diet. The news, social media, and other digital content can be a constant source of stress. You can't control the world, but you can control what you consume. Be intentional about what you read and watch, and consider setting boundaries or taking breaks from content that is constantly triggering you. You now have a complete emotional management system. You have in-the-moment tools for crises, and you have long-term practices for daily resilience. But what happens when you have a bad day? What happens when you lose control despite your best efforts? In our final chapter, we'll talk about maintaining progress and handling setbacks. We'll learn how to forgive yourself, learn from your mistakes, and get back on track. Let's move on. Chapter 16, Maintaining Progress and Handling Setbacks. You have now built a complete emotional regulation system. You have learned to map your triggers, use in-the-moment techniques, and build long-term resilience. But here is the most important truth of all: you are going to have setbacks. You are going to lose control. You are going to react emotionally, despite your best efforts. This final chapter is not about perfection. It is about what to do when you fall, so you can get back up, learn, and continue your journey stronger than before. Because the journey of emotional mastery isn't a straight line, it's a series of gentle corrections. What to do when you lose control. The moment a setback happens, whether it's an outburst at work or an argument at home, your first instinct will be to beat yourself up. A torrent of self-criticism will likely flood your mind. I'm a failure. I'll never get this right. This internal criticism is more damaging than the emotional reaction itself. Your first step must be to choose self-compassion over self-criticism. Acknowledge what happened without shame. Instead of saying, I'm a failure, use a simple, gentle statement: I lost my cool. That's okay. I'm still learning. After a moment of self-compassion, you can take a crucial step: take responsibility. This isn't about groveling, it's about taking ownership. A simple, I apologize for how I reacted earlier. That wasn't fair to you, can repair damage quickly and shows that you are in control of your actions, even when your emotions are not. This is a sign of strength, not weakness. Learning from emotional mistakes. Every setback is an opportunity for learning. The most emotionally resilient people are not those who never lose their cool, they are the ones who learn from it. After the emotional dust has settled, conduct a gentle, non-judgmental review of the incident. Don't do this in a state of anger or shame. Do it from a place of curiosity. Ask yourself 3 key questions. What was the exact trigger? Not just the situation, but the specific word, action, or phrase that caused your reaction. What did I feel right before I reacted? Was it a physical sensation of tension? A specific thought? What was the first sign of the hijack? At what point could I have used one of my tools? When could you have taken a deep breath? When could you have called for a timeout? After this gentle analysis, mentally rehearse a better response. Visualize the scenario playing out again, but this time, you use your tools. See yourself taking a deep breath and responding with calm. This simple act of visualization is a powerful way to build new neural pathways in your brain, making a better response second nature for the next time. Building a support network for emotional accountability. You are on this journey, but you do not have to do it alone. Building a support network is a vital part of your long-term success. Find an accountability partner, find a trusted friend, partner, or family member who you can be honest with. Tell them about your journey and ask them for help. Someone who will gently call you out when you're about to lose your cool, and someone you can call after a setback to process what happened. Share your progress. Talk to a trusted friend about a moment when you successfully managed your emotions. This simple act of sharing reinforces the positive habit and makes you feel proud of your progress. Consider a professional. If you find yourself repeatedly triggered by the same situations or if you feel a deeper emotional issue is at play, consider talking to a therapist or a coach. They can help you uncover the root causes of your emotional reactivity and give you personalized tools for growth. Conclusion: your journey is a marathon, not a sprint. The greatest victory on this journey is not about never getting angry again. It's about being in control of how you respond to your anger. It's about being able to forgive yourself when you make a mistake and to use every challenge as a stepping stone to a better, more emotionally resilient life. You have now completed the entire audiobook, and you have all the tools you need to master your emotions. You are no longer a victim of your feelings. You are an observer, a master, and a confident human being. Thank you for being on this journey with me. Your journey continues now. Go out there and live a life of peace and intention.
Now that you have mastered your emotions, it's time to master your time. If you feel like your life is controlled by distractions and busyness, my other audiobook, The Intentional Hour, will show you how to take back control of your days and live a life that truly matters. Click the video on the screen or find the link in the description and start listening now.